Hello. I never thought I'd be here telling this story, but sometimes the truth is too heavy to carry alone. Thanksgiving was supposed to be a time for family, for warmth, for feeling like you belong. But in my house, it was just another reminder of what I'd never be. My sister Maddie, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, walked in like she owned the place. Expensive clothes, designer bags, jewelry she had no business affording. And my parents? They beamed at her, while I sat there, invisible, like always. But then, my phone buzzed, a sinking feeling in my stomach. I opened my banking app and stared at the screen. My unemployment benefits, gone. Every cent. I looked up, and there she was, smiling, laughing, completely at ease. And I knew. Maddie had stolen from me. And my family? They wouldn't care. But that night, as I sat at the dinner table, watching everyone praise her, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not this time. What happened next? Let's just say, Maddie wasn't done ruining my life, but she had no idea I wasn't done either. Stick around, because this is a story of betrayal, of family secrets, and of finally taking back what's mine. Would you have walked away? Or would you have fought back? The scent of roasted turkey and spiced apple pie filled the Dawson family home, mixing with the laughter of a dozen voices. The long dining table gleamed under the golden light of the chandelier, its centerpiece an elaborate arrangement of pumpkins and autumn leaves. Every detail screamed perfection, the kind that belonged in holiday commercials. But standing at the doorway, I felt anything but welcome. I adjusted my coat, pushing aside the hesitation curling in my stomach. This was supposed to be a celebration, a family reunion, but history told me otherwise. I wasn't here to bask in warmth or nostalgia. I was here because skipping Thanksgiving would be a declaration of war, and my mother had already left 3 guilt-laden voicemails reminding me of that. "Emily, there you are!" My mother's voice rang through the air, sugary sweet, yet oddly distant. She barely glanced at me before her eyes flickered past, searching, waiting. I didn't have to guess for long. The front door swung open dramatically, the crisp autumn breeze following in the wake of Maddie Dawson, my older sister, my parents' golden child, and the thorn lodged permanently in my side. She stepped inside like she was walking onto a stage, effortlessly commanding the room's attention. A designer coat draped over her shoulders, and a pair of heels that looked painful, but expensive, clicked against the hardwood floors. She was practically glowing, her blonde hair cascading in waves, lips painted the perfect shade of red. "Maddie!" My mother's entire face lit up, her voice high-pitched with delight, as if an actual celebrity had just walked in. Maddie let out a laugh, perfectly timed, effortless, before enveloping our mother in a dramatic hug. She knew how to perform, how to soak up every ounce of admiration. "Mom, you look amazing!" she cooed, pulling back to scan the room. Her eyes swept over me briefly before flitting away, uninterested. Dad clapped her on the shoulder, his grin wide. "Still taking over the world, sweetheart?" "Trying my best," she said smoothly, tossing her hair back like a movie star. I gritted my teeth, shifting awkwardly in the background as the family circled around her. I'd barely received a full greeting, but Maddie? She was royalty. The conversation was effortless for everyone except me. My parents showered Maddie with questions. Her job, her travels, her many exciting projects. They hung on to every word like she was the most fascinating person alive. "And what about you, Em?" Dad finally turned toward me. "How's everything?" I forced a smile. "Still looking for something stable?" Silence. A beat too long. Dad hummed in thought, shifting uncomfortably. Mom gave a tight-lipped smile. Maddie, of course, didn't bother hiding her amusement. "Well," Mom said quickly, "things are tough out there right now." I didn't need to hear the rest. Translation: "You should be doing better." Maddie tilted her head, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. "Oh, right. You lost your job, didn't you?" The words stung, but I refused to let them show. "Yep, the company downsized." She made a sound of pity, then gestured vaguely. And you're, like, on unemployment now? It wasn't a question. It was a performance, carefully crafted to sound casual, yet belittling. Before I could respond, she changed the subject. Of course she did. My struggles were merely footnotes in her story. Dinner was served, and I took my usual spot at the table, far from the spotlight. Maddie, on the other hand, was placed right beside Dad, the seat of honor. Conversations revolved around her, each comment dripping with admiration. Halfway through the meal, I noticed something that didn't make sense. Maddie's wrist, adorned with a Rolex. Not just any Rolex, but the exact one she'd gushed about wanting months ago. My gaze lowered to her purse, a Gucci tote, the same one influencers flaunted online. I frowned. Maddie had never been responsible with money. Growing up, she blew through allowances while I saved every dime. She had credit cards maxed out before she was 22. But here she was, dressed like she'd hit the jackpot. Something was off. Between bites of cranberry sauce, I pulled out my phone, a growing unease creeping up my spine. I opened my bank app. My fork clattered against my plate. My unemployment benefits were gone. All of it. The entire balance vanished. My chest tightened. I tried refreshing the page. Nothing changed. Maddie's laughter rang through the dining room, carefree, effortless, dripping in privilege. I looked up, my stomach twisting. Her watch, her purse, her new outfit. I had no proof. Not yet. But deep down, I knew. I knew exactly where my money had gone. Maddie's laughter still rang in my ears as I forced myself to breathe. My fingers tightened around my phone, the empty bank account staring back at me like a flashing warning sign. I needed to be wrong. I needed some explanation that didn't involve her. But the evidence was there, sitting right in front of me, sipping wine from a crystal glass as if nothing had happened. I placed my phone face down on the table and clenched my hands under it, trying to steady the wave of emotions rising in my chest. The conversation around me blurred, fading into background noise. I looked across the table, locking eyes with her. She barely acknowledged me, swirling the deep red liquid in her glass, her face glowing under the soft candlelight. Her wrist, adorned with the Rolex I couldn't afford. The Gucci bag resting casually at her feet, as if it weren't a glaring reminder of everything I had lost. Something inside me snapped. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. Did you take my unemployment money? The words sliced through the air like a blade, silencing the room. All eyes turned toward me. Forks paused mid-air. Someone cleared their throat awkwardly. Maddie blinked, then tilted her head, lips curving into an amused smile. Wow, Emily, she said, her voice smooth, practiced. That's a little dramatic, don't you think? I didn't blink. Did you take it? She sighed, setting her glass down with deliberate ease. Relax, Em. It's not like you were using it for anything important. A rush of heat spread through my chest. I glanced at my parents, expecting something. Shock, anger, anything. But instead, my father barely lifted his gaze from his plate. Your sister had bigger needs, he said simply. And you always find a way to manage. The room spun. Bigger needs. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Maddie let out a small chuckle. You're acting like I drained your life savings or something. It was just sitting there. My mother exhaled loudly. Emily, please, not tonight. Not tonight. My hands trembled under the table. You knew? My voice came out quieter than I wanted. Sweetheart, my mother said, offering me a tight smile. You have always been the practical one. Maddie is building something for herself. She just needed a little help. The practical one. The one who always figured things out. The one who didn't matter. My stomach twisted as I scanned the table. My aunts and uncles shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. My cousins whispered among themselves, not even trying to hide their amusement. I was the fool, wasn't I? The one who worked extra shifts, saved every penny, did things the right way. And for what? So Maddie could parade around in stolen luxury while my parents watched and approved? I pushed my chair back. The wooden legs scraped against the floor. The sound sharp, final. Maddie raised her glass, smirking. "You'll get over it, Em. You always do." I stared at her, willing myself to remember this moment. The way she looked at me like I was nothing. The way my family dismissed me like I was a passing inconvenience. I had never truly belonged here, and I was done pretending I did. I stood abruptly, looking around the table one last time. My place had never been here. It was time to leave, for good. The cold rain hit my skin like tiny needles as I stepped out of my parents' house, my breath coming in sharp bursts. The driveway was slick, my shoes soaked within seconds. But I didn't care. My mind was racing, my pulse hammering as I pulled out my phone. I had nowhere to go. Maddie's voice still echoed in my head. "You'll get over it, Em. You always do." Not this time. I scrolled through my contacts, my fingers trembling. Ryan. The only person I could trust. I hit the call button, pressing the phone against my damp cheek. He picked up on the second ring. "Emily!" I swallowed my pride. "Can I crash at your place?" There was no hesitation. "Of course. Are you okay?" "No," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "But I will be." The cab ride to Ryan's apartment felt longer than it was. The city lights blurred through the rain-slicked windows, mirroring the mess in my head. I had nothing. No home, no job, no plan. Just a packed duffel bag and the weight of my family's betrayal pressing against my ribs. When I finally arrived, Ryan was already waiting by the door, his arms crossed. His face softened the moment he saw me. "Jesus, Em," he said, ushering me inside. "You're drenched." "I noticed," I muttered, shaking off my coat. His apartment was warm, cluttered with books and half-drunk coffee cups. It smelled like cinnamon and old paper, familiar and safe. Ryan disappeared into his room, returning with a towel and a dry sweatshirt. "Here, you look like you need it." I took them, my fingers cold against the fabric. "Thanks." He gestured to the couch. "Sit. Tell me what happened." I sat, but the words caught in my throat. How was I supposed to explain all of it? How do you put years of being overlooked into a single conversation? Ryan must have sensed my hesitation, because he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Let me guess. Maddie?" I let out a hollow laugh. "Who else?" His jaw tightened. "What did she do this time?" I hesitated, my fingers gripping the towel in my lap. "She stole my unemployment money." Silence. Then, "Are you serious?" His voice was sharp, disbelief laced with anger. I nodded, staring at the floor. "And my parents knew. They defended her, said she needed it more." Ryan exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples. "You have to cut them off, Em. All of them." I swallowed, the thought pressing against my ribs. Could I really do that? "I don't have a choice," I said finally. "I need to start over." Ryan leaned forward, determination hardening his features. "Then let's start now. You need a job, right?" I nodded. "Good." He grabbed his laptop from the coffee table, opening it. "Hartman and Associates is hiring. You should apply." I bit my lip. "Ryan." "No excuses." He turned the screen toward me. "You're smart, you're capable, and you're not going to let Maddie win." The weight in my chest shifted, something almost like hope flickering beneath the exhaustion. I wanted to believe him, so I took the laptop and I started typing. Hours passed in a blur. My resume, my applications, everything felt like a step toward reclaiming something I had lost. But then, my stomach dropped. I clicked on my saved resume file. It was gone. Number not gone. Changed, misspelled words, incorrect job titles. My past work experience butchered beyond recognition. Panic crawled up my spine. "Ryan!" I whispered, my voice tight. "Someone messed with my resume." He frowned, leaning over. His eyes scanned the screen before his expression darkened. This wasn't an accident. I already knew that. I knew exactly who had done this. Maddie. Ryan exhaled sharply, clicking through job listings. His fingers froze on the trackpad. What? I asked. He turned the screen toward me, his expression unreadable. Hartman and Associates is hiring, he said slowly. But Maddie's already been in contact with them. My blood ran cold. She was already ahead of me. My stomach twisted. Maddie wasn't just content with stealing from me. She was making sure I had nowhere left to go. The words on the screen blurred as a sharp pressure tightened around my chest. Maddie had done some awful things before, but this was a new level of cruelty. She hadn't just taken my money, she'd taken my chances. Ryan's voice cut through the silence. She's trying to block every way forward for you. I swallowed the lump in my throat, shaking my head in disbelief. She knew I'd be applying here. She got ahead of me. Ryan clenched his jaw, clicking through the job listing. Look at this, he muttered, pointing to a note under the job posting. My stomach sank further. Referral by Maddie Dawson. I felt physically ill. She hadn't just talked to them. She had inserted herself into my opportunities, making sure that if I tried to apply, they'd already have her version of events. Whatever lies she had spun about me, they'd hear them before they ever read my application. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, his frustration barely contained. We need to fix this, fast. I exhaled sharply, my mind racing. How was I supposed to fight this? I had no money, no solid connections, and now no credibility at one of the few firms still hiring. Ryan turned to me. Listen, I have a contact at Hartman and Associates. He's not high up, but he might know what Maddie's been saying. I looked at him, desperation and gratitude warring inside me. Who is he? He grabbed his phone, scrolling. Cole Patterson. He works in HR. I hesitated. HR? That meant he might have already seen my messed up resume. I'll text him now, Ryan continued. Worst case, we get an inside look at what Maddie's doing. I nodded, gripping the edge of the table. And best case? Ryan smirked. We flip the script before she gets too comfortable. 2 hours later, I was sitting on Ryan's couch, my nerves a tangled mess as I stared at my phone. Cole had agreed to meet. Tomorrow. A neutral coffee shop near his office, nothing too formal. He said he didn't want Maddie knowing about it. That alone told me she was already feeding him lies. I leaned back, closing my eyes. Exhaustion pulled at me, but sleep felt impossible. Ryan, sitting across from me, nudged my foot with his. You need rest. I let out a dry laugh. And you need a miracle. Hey. His voice was firm, but not unkind. We've got a plan. That's a hell of a lot better than nothing. I wanted to believe him, but Maddie always seemed one step ahead. The next morning, I arrived early at the coffee shop, nerves twisting my stomach into knots. The place was small but cozy, with dim lighting and the comforting scent of fresh espresso. The hum of conversation filled the air as I found a seat by the window. A few minutes later, the door opened, and Cole Patterson walked in. I recognized him from LinkedIn, mid-30s, sharp suit, clean cut. But his expression wasn't as formal as I expected. He looked cautious. He spotted me, then walked over, sliding into the seat across from me. Emily? I nodded, gripping my coffee cup. He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. All right, I'll be straight with you. Maddie's been running her mouth at Hartman for weeks. My fingers tightened around the cup. What is she saying? Cole hesitated. That you're unreliable, that you can't hold down a job, that you... He stopped himself, looking uncomfortable. Just say it. He sighed. That you took advantage of your parents, that you blame her for your problems because you can't take responsibility for your own failures. The world tilted slightly. I let out a breath, steadying myself. And people believe that? Cole shrugged. Some, not all. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. That's why I agreed to meet. Something about her story feels off. Hope flickered in my chest. I sat up. I can prove she's lying. Cole raised a brow. How? I pulled out my phone, opening my bank statements. I turned the screen toward him, my voice firm. Because this is where my unemployment money went. Cole studied the numbers, then glanced back up at me. His expression had shifted. She used your money? His voice had an edge to it now. Yes. I met his eyes. And I need to make sure she doesn't steal anything else. For a moment, he didn't say anything. Then, he pulled out his phone. I can't promise anything, but I'll see what I can do. That was more than I expected. It was more than I'd ever gotten before. As he stood to leave, he hesitated. You should know, she's still at it. A cold chill ran down my spine. She's not done. My hands tightened around my cup. Maddie hadn't just tried to ruin my chances. She was still working on it. I sat frozen in the coffee shop long after Cole had left, my mind racing through every possible scenario. Maddie wasn't just trying to hurt me. She was actively making sure I had no way out. No job, no future, no independence. By the time I got back to Ryan's apartment, the panic had settled into something worse. Helplessness. I dropped my bag onto the couch and sank down beside it, my head falling into my hands. It doesn't matter what I do. She's always ahead of me. Ryan leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. So what? You just give up. I didn't answer. He exhaled sharply, grabbing his laptop and setting it on the coffee table. That's not happening. Not this time. We're going to prove what she's done. I looked up, exhaustion weighing on me. How? Ryan pulled up my job applications, scrolling quickly. If she sabotaged your resume, there's a digital trail, you just have to find it. He made it sound simple. It wasn't. I sighed, reaching for my laptop. If there was even a chance to fight back, I had to take it. An hour passed. Then 2. I scanned through my emails, my applications, my job history, anything that could link Maddie to the lies she had spread. Then I saw it. A submission confirmation email for Hartman and Associates. I clicked on it, my pulse spiking. There was an attachment, my resume. But something was off. I opened the file, my eyes narrowing. Misspelled words, incorrect job titles, the same tampering that had ruined my other applications. But then I noticed something even bigger. The email used to submit the forged resume wasn't mine. It looked like my email address at first glance, but when I examined it closer, it wasn't. It was a company email, a Hartman as Tarsai email, and Maddie had access to it. I nearly dropped my laptop. Ryan peered over my shoulder. Holy! I shot to my feet. I have to get to Hartman, now. Ryan stood with me. Emily, wait. What's your plan? Show them this before it's too late, I said, stuffing my laptop into my bag. I was out the door before he could stop me. The cab ride to Hartman and Associates felt like it lasted a lifetime. My heart pounded with every turn, my mind racing through every possibility. What if it was too late? What if Maddie had already poisoned my chances beyond repair? But I couldn't think about that now. I had evidence. I had truth. And for once, I had to believe that would be enough. I rushed through the sleek glass doors of Hartman and Associates, my bag slung over my shoulder, my breath uneven. The receptionist glanced up, startled by my sudden entrance. I need to speak to Victoria Reynolds, I said, trying to sound composed. Her brow furrowed. Do you have an appointment? No, but it's important. It's about my application. She hesitated, then gestured toward the seating area. I'll check if she's available. I nodded and took a seat, my foot tapping anxiously against the floor. Minutes passed. Agonizingly slow, then, finally. Ms. Dawson? I shot to my feet as the receptionist gestured for me to follow. I clutched my bag, ready to fight for myself. But when I stepped into Victoria's office, my breath caught in my throat. Sitting across from her, legs crossed, voice dripping with charm. Maddie. She looked at me, her smile slow and calculated. like she had been expecting me. I tightened my grip on the documents. I won't let Maddie win this time. Victoria Reynolds was the kind of woman who made people sit up straighter when she entered a room. Sharp, poised, and impossible to read. She sat behind her polished mahogany desk, her fingers laced together as she glanced between Maddie and me. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on my shoulders. This was it. Maddie, of course, had already launched into her performance. "Emily, this is getting ridiculous," she said, shaking her head with a soft, pitying smile. "I don't know why you're so determined to blame me for your problems, but I wish you'd just let this go." I clenched my fists. Victoria held up a hand, silencing her. "Emily, you asked for this meeting. Show me what you have." Without hesitation, I pulled out my laptop and opened the files I had uncovered the night before. "This," I said, turning the screen toward her, "is my real resume. And this," I clicked to the next document, "is the forged one, the one that was submitted from your company email system." Victoria's gaze darkened as she leaned in. I continued, my voice steady. "The altered resume listed false information. It made me look unqualified, unprofessional. But here's the thing." I pulled up the submission details. "The email used? It didn't come from my account. It came from inside Hartman and Associates." Silence. Maddie let out a soft laugh, though it was noticeably strained. "Emily, do you hear yourself? You're accusing me of hacking into a company system?" She turned to Victoria, all innocence. "This is insane." Victoria studied her for a long moment, before turning back to me. "Can you prove that Maddie had access to the email account in question?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." I pulled up another document, one from months ago before I ever applied. "Maddie had an internship here last year," I said. "And during that time, she had temporary access to the internal hiring portal." I turned to look directly at my sister. "You still remember your login credentials, don't you?" Her face paled. Victoria's expression remained unreadable, but I saw the flicker of suspicion cross her eyes. Maddie shifted in her seat, her usual confidence faltering. "That doesn't prove anything. Maybe someone else used that login." Victoria exhaled sharply. "That's convenient, Maddie." For the first time, she sounded unconvinced. A flicker of satisfaction stirred in my chest. Victoria tapped her fingers against the desk before looking back at me. "You're saying you never submitted this altered resume?" I met her gaze. "I would never submit something like that." She nodded once, then leaned back in her chair. "Fine, you'll get a second interview." The air in the room shifted. I barely processed what she had said before Maddie jumped in. "Wait, what?" Victoria gave her a cool glance. "I'm not saying I believe everything yet, but I do believe in fairness. And if Emily's application was tampered with, then she deserves a real shot." I let out a slow breath. This was my chance. Victoria stood. "That's all for now. Emily, I'll see you on Monday for your interview." Maddie was seething, but she didn't argue. She couldn't. Not without exposing herself even more. Instead, she flashed me a smile as she gathered her things, a quiet warning. She wasn't done. Neither was I. Later that night, I sat across from Ryan in a dimly lit bar downtown. The relief of securing the second interview had been momentary, because the truth was, I wasn't just up against Maddie's lies. I was up against whatever else she had planned. Ryan clinked his beer against my untouched glass. "You did it," he said. I shook my head. "Not yet." He sighed, taking a sip. "You need to celebrate your wins, Em." I wanted to, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Maddie still had an advantage. "She's hiding something," I murmured. Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Besides being a manipulative nightmare?" I gave him a look. "Something bigger." Just then, a voice interrupted. "Emily Dawson?" I turned, blinking in surprise. A man stood near our table, his face half lit by the neon bar sign. I recognized him instantly. Ethan Brooks, Maddie's ex. I hadn't seen him in years, but I remembered the last time all too well. when he had suddenly disappeared from Maddie's life with nothing but a vague excuse. Ethan hesitated before sitting down across from us. His eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite place. "I heard you were in town," he said. "Figured I should warn you." Ryan stiffened beside me. "Warn her about what?" Ethan leaned in. "Maddie," I exhaled. "Yeah, I got that part." He shook his head. "No, you don't get it. She's not just screwing with you because she enjoys it. She's desperate." Something in his tone made my pulse spike. I glanced at Ryan before turning back to Ethan. "Desperate for what?" Ethan hesitated. "Money, power, control. Doesn't matter. The point is, she's been digging herself into something bad for years, and if she's turning her focus to you now, it means one thing." His eyes locked onto mine. "She's running out of ways to cover it up." The realization hit like a gut punch. Maddie wasn't just cruel, she was cornered, and that made her even more dangerous. I leaned back in my chair, realization dawning. Maddie isn't just cruel, she's desperate, and that makes her even more dangerous. The words lingered in my mind long after Ethan left. I stared blankly at the condensation forming around my untouched drink. Across from me, Ryan leaned forward, his brows drawn together in concern. "She's running out of ways to cover it up," I murmured, repeating Ethan's warning. Ryan exhaled sharply. "You really think Maddie's in financial trouble?" I nodded, gripping my glass tightly. "Think about it. She's always been obsessed with status. Designer clothes, luxury vacations, expensive restaurants. But that kind of lifestyle doesn't come cheap." Ryan's expression hardened. "And she took your money." My stomach churned at the reminder. Maddie had stolen thousands from me, money I needed to survive. And now, I was beginning to understand why. "She's not just sabotaging me for fun," I said. "She needs to keep up appearances. If people find out she's struggling, her whole perfect image falls apart." Ryan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "So what's her endgame?" I hesitated, then shook my head. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." The next afternoon, I found myself standing outside Fay and Mercer, one of the most exclusive boutiques in the city. Maddie had always bragged about shopping here, how the staff knew her by name, how they reserved pieces just for her. If she was truly struggling, this was where the cracks in her illusion would start to show. I stepped inside, the scent of expensive perfume and polished leather hitting me immediately. Soft jazz played over hidden speakers, and well-dressed customers browsed designer racks as attentive clerks hovered nearby. Then I saw her. Maddie stood near the register, a small pile of neatly folded clothes beside her. She looked impeccable as always. Her hair in effortless waves, her makeup flawless, her designer handbag draped casually over one arm. But then I noticed her posture. She wasn't relaxed. Her shoulders were tense, her smile too tight as she handed over her card. I moved closer, pretending to examine a nearby display. The sales clerk slid Maddie's card into the machine. A pause. Then, a sharp beep. Maddie's smile faltered. "Oh," she said, laughing lightly. "That's strange." She pushed the card toward the clerk again. "Try it one more time." The clerk hesitated, then swiped it again. Another decline. Maddie's entire body stiffened. "That can't be right," she said, her voice growing sharper. "There must be a banking error." I felt my breath hitch. "She's lying." The clerk offered a polite but uncomfortable smile. "Would you like to try another card, Ms. Dawson?" For a split second, Maddie hesitated. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out another card. The clerk swiped it. I braced myself, declined. A wave of cold disbelief washed over me. Maddie was broke. For the first time, I saw panic flicker in her eyes. She let out a short breath, composing herself quickly. "I'll just call my bank. I'm sure this is a mistake." She forced a smile, scooped up her bag, and walked swiftly toward the exit. I followed, slipping out behind her just as she pulled her phone to her ear. "Hi, yes," she said, her voice still thick with forced calm. I just tried to make a purchase, and my card was declined. That's obviously a mistake. She listened, her expression darkening. I moved closer, catching snippets of the conversation. What do you mean, insufficient funds? A long silence. Maddie's hand tightened around her phone. No, that's impossible, she hissed. There should be plenty in that account. Another pause. Then, I don't care about overdraft fees. Just tell me what's going on. I took a shaky breath. Maddie wasn't just struggling, she was drowning. And suddenly, everything clicked. Her obsession with sabotaging me, her need to steal my money, her desperation to keep me down. Because if I succeeded, people would start asking why she wasn't. She ended the call abruptly, stuffing her phone into her bag before storming toward the parking lot. I watched her go, my pulse pounding. For so long, I had been on the defensive, dodging her attacks, cleaning up her messes, trying to survive her manipulations. But now, for the first time, I saw her for what she truly was. Not untouchable, not perfect, just scared. And that meant one thing: it was time for me to stop running. That evening, I sat in Ryan's apartment, staring at my phone. You're thinking about confronting her, aren't you? Ryan asked, watching me closely. I nodded. Ryan sighed. Emily, you finally have some leverage over her. You could use this to your advantage. If she knows you know. That's exactly why I need to confront her, I interrupted. If she's as desperate as Ethan said, she's going to do something worse. I need to get ahead of her. Ryan didn't look convinced. And what if she turns it around on you again? I hesitated. That was always the risk, wasn't it? But this time was different, because for the first time, I wasn't the one on the losing side. I took a deep breath and typed out a message. Me. We need to talk, tomorrow, in person. I stared at the screen, waiting. Minutes passed. Then, Maddie. Fine. My place. Noon. I exhaled slowly. This was it. The storm was coming. And this time, I was walking into it willingly. I watched Maddie storm out of the store, her hands shaking. I was finally seeing the cracks in her empire. The invitation was simple. A text. Me. Meet me at the Summit Rooftop Bar. 8 p.m. She didn't respond right away, but I knew she would come. Maddie never backed away from a confrontation, especially not when she thought she could win. The Summit was one of the most exclusive rooftop bars in the city, the kind of place Maddie would have frequented when she still had the money to throw around. The irony wasn't lost on me. I arrived early, nursing a club soda at a table near the edge of the rooftop. The city stretched out below, glittering with lights, and the faint hum of music mixed with the clinking of glasses. I didn't have to wait long. Maddie walked in at precisely 8:10, her confidence perfectly rehearsed. She was dressed impeccably, as always, in a designer dress that I knew she couldn't afford. But I also saw the subtle signs. Her shoes weren't new, the expensive handbag she carried had a small tear in the strap, and her necklace, usually something extravagant, was noticeably missing. She slid into the seat across from me, crossing her legs like she owned the place. Well, she said, tilting her head, this is a surprise. I took a slow breath. Is it? She smirked. You, inviting me to a nice place like this? I almost feel flattered. She flagged down the waiter. A Manhattan, please. The waiter nodded and left, and Maddie turned her attention back to me. So, what's this about? Are we finally done with the dramatics? I studied her. You tell me. She let out a short laugh. Emily, you're exhausting. I folded my hands on the table. I know you're broke. Her expression didn't change right away, but I saw it, the flicker of something behind her eyes, a crack in the mask. I don't know what you're talking about, she said smoothly. I leaned forward. Your cards got declined today. At Fay and Mercer. Her jaw clenched. I didn't stop. I heard you on the phone with the bank. There's nothing left, is there? Her fingers curled around the edge of the table. You were spying on me? I wanted the truth. Her laugh was brittle. And what? You think you've won some kind of victory? That I'll admit defeat? I met her gaze. I think you're scared. She sat back, shaking her head. This is pathetic. No, Maddie, I said, my voice calm but firm. This is reality. Yours is crumbling. The waiter arrived with her drink, setting it down carefully before retreating. Maddie grabbed the glass and took a long sip, her hand trembling slightly. Then she set it down, looking at me with something sharp and dangerous. You have no idea what you're talking about, she muttered. I kept my voice steady. I know you stole my money because you had no other choice. She froze. For a moment, the world seemed to still. Then she laughed, but it was wrong. Hollow. You think this is about money? She scoffed. God, Emily, you're so naive. I frowned. Then what is it about? She picked up her drink, swirling the amber liquid. You don't get it, do you? I stayed silent. Maddie exhaled heavily. Do you know what it's like to be expected to be perfect all the time? She gestured vaguely. To be the golden child? The one who never fails? I stiffened. You were always the backup plan, she continued. The reliable one, the one who didn't need attention. But me? I had to be someone. Her voice dropped lower. And I was. For a while. She lifted the drink to her lips, but this time her hand shook badly enough that she set it back down. But then things started slipping, she admitted. A bad investment. A few bad deals. Suddenly, the money wasn't there anymore. And do you know what happens when someone like me starts losing? I didn't answer. Her smile was razor sharp. People start leaving. I felt something uneasy coil in my stomach. Maddie? She let out a humorless laugh. You think I took your money just for fun? I took it because I had to. Her eyes locked onto mine. Because if I lost everything, I'd have nothing left. Her voice cracked on the last word. And for the first time, I saw fear. Real, raw fear. I should have felt satisfaction. I should have felt vindicated. But all I felt was tired. I exhaled. Maddie, you could have just asked me for help. Her face twisted. And admit I needed you? She cut herself off, shaking her head furiously. Silence stretched between us. Then Maddie let out a breath, her entire body slumping. You want to know the truth? She said, her voice softer now. I nodded. She lifted her drink again, downing the rest of it in one go before setting the glass down with a sharp clink. If I go down, she murmured, I'm taking you with me. A chill ran down my spine. I swallowed. What does that mean? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood up, smoothing her dress. Then she looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite place. You'll see soon enough, she said. Then she walked away. I sat there, my heart pounding. I had come here thinking I was finally ahead of her. But now I realized something else entirely. Maddie might have been desperate, but she still wasn't done. Emily stares at her sister, realizing Maddie is more desperate than she ever imagined, and desperate people are dangerous. The first thing I noticed was the sheer number of unread notifications flooding my phone. Dozens, no hundreds. My heart pounded as I unlocked the screen. Texts, missed calls, mentions on social media. I clicked on the first message from Ryan. Ryan. Emily, don't freak out. That never meant anything good. The second message was worse. Ryan. You need to check Twitter. Now, my stomach clenched as I tapped the app open. The trending section slapped me in the face with its bold, screaming headline. Stay strong, Maddie. I clicked it, and my entire world tilted. There she was, Maddie, in a carefully staged video, sitting in what looked like her bedroom, her eyes red-rimmed, her voice shaking just enough to seem authentic. I never wanted to do this, she began, her voice trembling. But I can't stay silent anymore. My own sister, Emily, has been tormenting me for months. She's mentally unstable, obsessed with destroying my life. I gripped the edge of the bed as the video continued. She's fabricated lies about me, stolen from me, tried to turn my own friends and colleagues against me. I stayed quiet because she's family, but I can't keep letting her ruin my life. I felt physically ill. The video cut to screenshots, fake screenshots, text messages supposedly from me. Emily, you don't deserve any of it. You should have never been born. Emily, I'm going to take everything from you. Just watch. My vision blurred. She'd gone this far? Fabricating messages? The replies beneath the video were vicious. Laurent. Oh my God, I knew Emily was jealous, but this is next level crazy. Real Talk 2023. No wonder Maddie is always stressed. Imagine dealing with a psycho sister like that. Maddie fan forever. We got you, Maddie. Stay strong. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the damage was already done. She had flipped the narrative. Again. The world saw me as the villain. A knock on my bedroom door snapped me out of my daze. Emily! Ryan's voice was cautious. Can I come in? I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Yeah. He stepped inside, holding his phone, his expression tight. I saw it. I exhaled shakily. She faked everything. Ryan sat beside me. Of course she did, but people believe her. The knot in my chest tightened. I can't fight this. She's already won. Ryan's jaw clenched. No, she hasn't. I shook my head. Ryan, she has proof. Fake proof, but still. He took a breath. Then we prove it's fake. How? My voice cracked. She's always 2 steps ahead. Ryan grabbed his laptop from the desk and opened it. There has to be something. A mistake. A digital footprint. She's not a hacker. She's desperate. She had to get these messages from somewhere. I let out a bitter laugh. You think Maddie made a mistake? Ryan smirked. Everyone makes mistakes. I watched as he started pulling up metadata analysis tools. My hands were still shaking, but for the first time that morning, I felt a flicker of hope. Then my phone buzzed again. A new email. From Hartman and Associates. My breath hitched. I opened it. Subject: Urgent concerns regarding your employment. I scanned the email quickly, dread pooling in my stomach. Dear Emily, we have recently received some concerning reports regarding your behavior and potential misconduct. Given the nature of these claims, we need to discuss your future employment status immediately. Please be available for a meeting at noon today. I felt like I'd been punched. Maddie contacted my job, I whispered. Ryan's fingers paused on the keyboard. What? She's trying to get me fired. Ryan's face darkened. She's escalating. I swallowed the lump in my throat. What do I do? Ryan ran a hand through his hair. You meet with them. Tell the truth. Show them who you really are. I laughed bitterly. You think the truth matters when Maddie has an entire army behind her? Ryan hesitated. You're right. We need something stronger. He glanced at his screen again. Then, his eyes widened. Wait, I leaned in. What? Ryan's fingers moved rapidly over the keyboard. These text messages she posted. I think I found something. My pulse quickened. What is it? He turned the screen toward me. The timestamps don't match. The metadata shows they were generated in an image editor, not an actual phone conversation. I blinked. You're saying she faked them badly? A mix of relief and rage flooded through me. We can prove it. Ryan nodded. We're going to take this straight to Hartman and Associates before the meeting. I exhaled, steadying myself. Okay. Before I could move, my phone buzzed again. A new message. But this one wasn't from Ryan, or Maddie, or anyone I recognized. It was from an unknown number, anonymous. I know what Maddie did. Meet me at the coffee stop at noon if you want the truth. My blood ran cold. Ryan leaned over. Who's that? I stared at the message, my heart pounding. I don't know. Ryan frowned. Could be a trap. Or it could be the one thing that finally exposes her. Silence hung between us. Then Ryan sighed. I don't like it. Neither do I. But I knew one thing for sure. I had to go. Emily grips her phone. Someone else knows Maddie's secrets. But can she trust them? The coffee stop was quieter than I expected for a weekday afternoon. The soft hum of conversation, the occasional clang of ceramic cups against saucers. It should have been calming, but my pulse was racing. I sat in the farthest corner, facing the entrance, my hands wrapped around my coffee cup. The steam curled into the air, but I barely noticed. My mind was elsewhere. Whoever sent that message was late. I tapped my fingers against the table, my paranoia kicking in. This could be another one of Maddie's games, a setup. Maybe she'd sent me here to humiliate me, to make me look even more unstable than she already painted me to be. Or maybe, just maybe, this was real. The bell above the door jingled. I tensed. And then I saw him. Cole Patterson. My eyes narrowed as he scanned the shop, his gaze landing on me. His expression was unreadable as he made his way over, slipping into the seat across from me. "You're the one who sent the message?" I asked, keeping my voice low. He nodded. "I figured you wouldn't come if you knew it was me." He wasn't wrong. I stared at him, searching for any sign of deception. Cole was a coworker, but we weren't exactly close. We exchanged pleasantries in the office, but that was it. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because I know what Maddie did to you." I stiffened. Cole glanced around, then leaned in. "Look, I wasn't sure if I should get involved, but Maddie, she approached me last week." My stomach knotted. "Approached you for what?" He hesitated. "She wanted me to plant false reports about you at Hartman and Associates. Claimed you were unstable and a liability. She offered me money to help make sure you didn't cause problems in the office." My jaw clenched. Of course she did. I exhaled sharply. "And? Did you take it?" Cole scoffed. "Number. But I did something else." He pulled his phone from his pocket, tapped the screen, and slid it across the table. A voice recording app was open. "Play it," he said. I hesitated, but my fingers moved on their own, pressing the button. Then, Maddie's voice filled the small space between us. "She just doesn't know when to quit, does she? I don't care what it takes. Just make sure she doesn't get that job. If she's out of options, she'll have to come back to me. And that's exactly where I want her." I gripped the phone tighter, my breath catching. She's pathetic, always trying to prove something. Just make her look bad enough, and she'll fold. She always does. The recording ended. I could hear my own pulse pounding in my ears. Cole watched me carefully. I wasn't going to say anything at first, but when I saw what she did online, I couldn't keep quiet. I swallowed down the rage bubbling in my throat. Maddie hadn't just tried to ruin me. She wanted to own me. She wanted me so beaten down, so desperate, that I had no choice but to come crawling back. She was terrified of me standing on my own. Cole cleared his throat. "This is your chance, Emily. You can take this to Hartman and Associates, to social media. You can end this." I stared at the phone. This was it. The proof I needed. But using it meant destroying Maddie completely. I clenched my fists. Did I really want to do that? Would I be any better than her if I did? I took a shaky breath. Cole leaned in. "If you want to take Maddie down, now's your chance." Emily stares at the recording. This is the final piece of the puzzle. The only question left, will she use it? I sat on Ryan's couch, staring at my phone screen as if it held all the answers. The recording played again, Maddie's voice dripping with malice. "She just doesn't know when to quit, does she? If she's out of options, she'll have to come back to me. And that's exactly where I want her." I clenched my jaw, my fingers curling into my palm. The words felt like acid in my ears, burning away every ounce of doubt I had about Maddie's intentions. This wasn't just about sabotage. This was control. Ryan sat across from me, arms crossed. "Emily, I don't get why this is even a question. You have proof. You could shut her down right now." I looked up at him, my thoughts tangled. "And then what? She loses everything? Gets humiliated?" Ryan exhaled, exasperated. "After everything she's done to you, you're worried about her feelings?" I shook my head. "Number, I don't know if this is about justice anymore. Ryan leaned forward. What do you mean? I rubbed my temples. Justice is about making things right. But if I post this, if I take this to Hartman and Associates, to the press, it won't just ruin Maddie. It'll destroy her. Ryan scoffed. She deserves it. I didn't answer, because part of me agreed. But another part of me wondered if I was just as bad as her. If, deep down, I wanted to see her fall. Not because it was right, but because it would feel good. Ryan leaned back. So what? You're just gonna let her keep getting away with it? I opened my mouth to answer, but my phone buzzed. Mom. I hesitated. Then, before I could overthink it, I answered. Emily, she said, her voice softer than I expected. Can you meet us at the park? I frowned. Us. Your father and I, she clarified. Please, we need to talk. I glanced at Ryan, who raised an eyebrow. Why now? I asked. There was a pause, then a sigh. We know more than we let on, Mom admitted. There's something you need to hear. I stiffened. A chill crept down my spine. What do you mean? But she didn't answer. Just meet us, she said. Then she hung up. I stared at my phone, my stomach twisting. Ryan frowned. What was that? I swallowed hard. No, I steadied myself before looking up. They're hiding something. The park was quiet when I arrived. Golden sunlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled patterns on the pavement. A few kids played on the swings, their laughter distant and carefree. It was the kind of day that felt too peaceful for the conversation I was about to have. Mom and Dad sat on a bench near the pond. I took a slow breath, then approached. They looked up as I neared, their faces unreadable. Emily, Dad said, shifting as if he wasn't sure whether to stand or stay seated. I crossed my arms. What's this about? Mom sighed, her hands twisting in her lap. We haven't been honest with you. I narrowed my eyes. About what? Dad exhaled through his nose, then glanced at Mom before looking back at me. We need to talk about Maddie, he said, and what we should have told you a long time ago. I stiffened. The way he said it, his tone, the weight in his voice, sent a shiver down my spine. A deep, sinking feeling settled in my stomach. What are you hiding? I asked. Dad hesitated. Then he sighed. There's something you need to hear. Emily's stomach twists. What are they hiding? I followed my parents into the dimly lit restaurant, the scent of grilled steak and warm bread filling the air. The atmosphere was deceptively calm, a stark contrast to the storm of emotions brewing inside me. They chose a quiet corner booth, away from the crowds. I slid into the seat across from them, arms crossed, waiting. Mom fidgeted with the edge of her napkin. Dad exhaled, rubbing his temple like this conversation had already exhausted him before it even began. Just say it, I pressed, my patience razor thin. Dad glanced at Mom before meeting my gaze. Maddie's been lying to everyone for years. I leaned back, my stomach tightening. Yeah, I figured that part out already. Mom sighed. Not just about the money, Emily. She hesitated. About everything. I frowned. What does that even mean? Dad shifted uncomfortably. We knew she had financial problems, but we never realized how bad it was. She's been borrowing money under false pretenses, maxing out credit cards, faking business ventures to make it look like she's successful. He looked down. And we helped her. I blinked. You helped her? Mom flinched. We thought we were protecting her. She always... She hesitated, lowering her voice. She always had a way of making things worse when she felt like she was losing control. I stared at them. So you covered for her. You let her ruin my life because you were afraid of her? Mom's eyes welled with tears, but I didn't care. All those years of feeling invisible. Every time they dismissed me, told me to let it go, told me Maddie just needed support. It was never about her needing help. It was about them being too afraid to let her fail. I clenched my fists under the table. You let her destroy me to keep her comfortable? Dad pinched the bridge of his nose. It wasn't like that. Yes, I shot back. It was exactly like that. Mom opened her mouth, but before she could speak, Dad's phone buzzed. He frowned, glancing at the screen. Then his face drained of color. I narrowed my eyes. What? Without answering, he turned the phone toward me. The TV mounted on the restaurant wall flickered to life, and my stomach lurched. Maddie was on the news. She sat on a pristine white couch, her makeup flawless, her expression expertly composed. I've tried so hard to support my sister, she said, voice trembling just enough to be believable. But she's always had issues. I gritted my teeth. The anchor leaned forward, feigning concern. What kind of issues, Maddie? Maddie sighed, shaking her head like this was just so difficult for her. She's struggled with jealousy, she said softly. And I've tried to be patient, but it's gotten worse. She's been harassing me, making up these wild accusations, trying to ruin my career. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. She even tried to get me fired, Maddie continued. I don't know what to do anymore. The anchor turned back to the camera. If anyone has experienced anything similar or has any information, please reach out. I barely heard the rest, because in that moment, I knew. Maddie wasn't just trying to manipulate me anymore. She was erasing me. Ryan's text popped up on my screen. Did you see it? She just declared war. I clenched my jaw. Yes. Yes. She had. Emily grips her phone, knowing it's time to fight back. For real this time. Ryan's apartment was dimly lit, the glow from my laptop screen illuminating the determined expression on my face. My heart pounded as I stared at the blank document in front of me. This was it. The moment I decided whether to let Maddie's lies define me, or finally take back control. Ryan paced behind me, arms crossed. You need to be strategic, he said. This isn't just about telling your side of the story, it's about proving it. I nodded. I had evidence, real evidence. Maddie's lies, her manipulations, her financial fraud. I had it all recorded. But exposing her wasn't just about clearing my name. It was about showing the world who she really was. I took a deep breath and began typing. An hour later, I sat back, reading my statement aloud. For years, my sister has lied, stolen, and manipulated those around her. She has crafted a persona built on deception, using people, including me, for her own gain. I never wanted this to be public, but Maddie made that choice for me when she went on national television and spread malicious lies. Now it's my turn to tell the truth. Ryan exhaled. That's strong, but... He hesitated. I narrowed my eyes. But what? He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Words alone won't be enough. I knew he was right. Maddie was a master manipulator. If I just released a statement, she'd twist it. She'd call me bitter, jealous. She'd play the victim again. I needed something bigger, something undeniable. That's when the idea hit me. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through my contacts. There was only one person who could help me turn this into something Maddie couldn't escape. 2 hours later, I sat across from Natalie Reyes, a well-respected investigative journalist. She looked at me with sharp, assessing eyes. You're telling me, she said, tapping her pen against her notepad, that you have a recording of your sister admitting to fraud? I slid my phone across the table. See for yourself. She put in her earbuds and pressed play. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Maddie's voice crackled through the speakers. I had no choice, okay? Emily wasn't even using that money. And yeah, I tweaked a few things to make sure she didn't get hired. What was I supposed to do? Let her win? She's never had to work as hard as I have. Natalie's eyebrows shot up. She admitted to stealing from you and sabotaging your career. I nodded. Natalie leaned back, considering. A written statement would be one thing, but this? This is a smoking gun. She tapped her fingers against the table. This could be huge. I inhaled sharply. So, will you run the story? She smiled. No, I blinked. What? I won't just run it. I want you to go live. On the same network Maddie used to smear you. My heart stopped. Live. On national television, where I'd have one chance to get this right. I swallowed hard. What if I mess up? Natalie shrugged. Then Maddie wins. I clenched my jaw. Number not this time. I met her gaze. Let's do it. The next evening, I sat in the news station's waiting room, my hands clenched in my lap. Cameras were set up, producers bustled around, and the air hummed with nervous energy. Ryan sat beside me, squeezing my hand. You got this. I nodded, even though my stomach was in knots. A producer appeared. We're live in 60 seconds. I stood, smoothing my blazer. My legs felt like lead as I walked onto the set. The anchor smiled at me, microphone in hand. Emily, thank you for joining us. I forced a steady breath. Thank you for having me. The camera light turned red. We were live. The anchor gave a brief introduction, then turned to me. Emily, your sister recently went public with some serious claims about you. You're here to respond? I folded my hands in my lap. Yes, but I'm not just here to respond. I'm here to tell the truth. The anchor leaned forward. Which is? I looked straight into the camera. For years, my sister has lied, stolen, and manipulated those around her. She's deceived our family, our friends, and the public. I exhaled. But I don't expect you to just take my word for it. I have proof. I reached for my phone and pressed play. Maddie's voice filled the studio. I had no choice, okay? Emily wasn't even using that money. And yeah, I tweaked a few things to make sure she didn't get hired. What was I supposed to do? Let her win? The room fell dead silent. The anchor blinked. That. She turned to the producers, who were scrambling behind the scenes. That was your sister's voice? Yes. The camera panned back to me, and I finished it. For years, she's hidden behind a carefully crafted image. But the truth is, Maddie Dawson isn't a victim. She's a fraud. Somewhere across town, in a high-rise apartment, Maddie stared at the screen in horror. The world was finally seeing who she really was. Maddie's face drains of color. The world is finally seeing who she really is. Maddie's apartment was in chaos. Shredded papers littered the floor, empty wine glasses stacked in the sink, and her laptop sat open to a flood of unread messages, all of them screaming one thing. She was finished. The phone rang incessantly, but she didn't pick up. Sponsors, PR agents, former friends. Everyone wanted an explanation. Everyone wanted distance. The worst part? It wasn't just strangers turning their backs. It was everyone. Her carefully curated world was crumbling. I sat at Ryan's kitchen counter, staring at my own phone as messages poured in. Emily, I had no idea what you were dealing with. Stay strong. I believed Maddie's lies. I'm so sorry. You handled that interview with class. You deserved better. I should have felt triumphant. I had won. The truth was out. The world had seen Maddie for who she really was. But as I scrolled through the messages, I didn't feel the victory I had expected. There was no rush of satisfaction, no wave of relief, just exhaustion. Ryan sat across from me, watching carefully. You okay? I exhaled slowly. Yeah, I trailed off, searching for the right words. Ryan leaned forward. You thought winning would feel better? I nodded. He gave me a small, knowing smile. You took back your power, Em. That's what matters. I nodded, even though I wasn't sure I believed it. My phone buzzed again, but this time, it wasn't another flood of messages from strangers. It was Victoria Hartman. I took a steadying breath before answering. Hello? Victoria's voice was calm, professional. Emily, I wanted to reach out personally. My stomach tightened. Was she about to rescind my job offer because of all the public drama? But then she said something that caught me off guard. You stood up for yourself, and you did it with integrity, she continued. That's exactly the kind of person we want on our team. I blinked. Wait, what? She chuckled. We'd like to offer you the position you originally applied for. If you're still interested. I sat up straight, gripping the phone tighter. I am. Of course I am. Great, she said warmly. Come by tomorrow morning and we'll finalize everything. I hung up and turned to Ryan, stunned. They offered me the job. Ryan broke into a grin. Hell yeah, they did! For the first time in weeks, I felt light. Like I could breathe again. This was mine. Maddie hadn't taken it from me. I had fought back. And I had won. Maddie sat in the dim light of her apartment, phone clutched in her trembling hands. Her inbox was full of rejection emails, brands cutting ties, former allies turning their backs. She was broke. Her carefully constructed world, her empire of lies, had been dismantled, and Emily was the one who had done it. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She should apologize. Try to salvage something. But rage burned beneath her skin. This wasn't over. She typed out a single message. I hope you're happy. You ruined me. My phone buzzed, and I glanced at the screen. Maddie. I hesitated before opening the message. I hope you're happy. You ruined me. I inhaled sharply. Had I really won? Or had we both just lost? Emily stares at the message. Had she really won? Or had they both lost? I sat on the couch in Ryan's apartment, phone still in my hand, reading Maddie's message over and over. I hope you're happy. You ruined me. It was strange. I had spent so much time fighting back, proving myself, exposing Maddie for who she really was. I had imagined this moment 1,000 times, the moment she would finally face the consequences of everything she had done. But instead of triumph, all I felt was exhaustion. Ryan walked into the living room, glancing at me before setting his coffee down. You okay? I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. I don't know. He sat beside me, leaning forward. Emily. She did this to herself. You didn't ruin her. You just stopped letting her ruin you. I nodded, but the weight in my chest didn't lift. For the first time, I wasn't sure if I had been fighting to win, or just fighting to survive. The sun was setting when I finally made my decision. I texted Maddie back. Let's meet. She responded almost immediately. Fine. The park. 1 hour. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't anger. It was just a final thread. I didn't tell Ryan where I was going. Some things I needed to do alone. The air was crisp when I arrived. The park was mostly empty, save for a few joggers and an old couple walking hand in hand. And then I saw her. Maddie sat on a bench near the fountain, arms crossed, looking nothing like the sister I used to know. Her hair was unstyled, her clothes weren't designer, and the usual confidence she carried like armor was gone. For the first time in my life, she looked small. She barely glanced at me as I sat down beside her. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Then, quietly, she said, You won. I didn't answer. Maddie turned to look at me, her eyes searching for something. Anger, gloating, maybe even pity. What was it all for, Emily? She asked bitterly. I met her gaze, my voice steady. For me, I said. It was never about you, Maddie. It was about me. Her lips parted, but she didn't respond. Maybe, for the first time, she actually listened. Maybe, for the first time, she realized I wasn't the girl she could push around anymore. I stood up, looking at my sister one last time. Then, without another word, I walked away. And this time, I didn't look back. Emily walks away, leaving Maddie behind. She's finally free. The glass doors of Hartman and Associates loomed before me, polished to perfection, reflecting the morning sun. For the first time in a long time, I stepped forward without hesitation. Victoria met me in the lobby, her smile warm but professional. Welcome aboard, Emily. I smiled back. Thank you. The past few weeks had been a storm, a fight I never asked for, a battle I never thought I'd win. But standing here, felt like stepping into a world that was finally mine. The office smelled like fresh paper and coffee. The hum of keyboards and quiet conversations filled the air. I was here. I had made it. I shook hands with new colleagues, my heart steady. When Victoria introduced me to my team, I didn't shrink back, didn't question if I deserved this. I had earned it. Hours passed in a blur. Emails, introductions, assignments, a new world unfolding. By the time the clock hit 6, I packed my bag, stepping out into the cool evening air. And for the first time in forever, my future wasn't something to fear. It was something to embrace. Later that night, I met Ryan at our favorite cafe. He was already waiting, 2 cups of coffee in front of him. I slid into the seat across from him, exhaling as I wrapped my hands around the warm ceramic. "Well?" he asked, grinning. "How was the first day?" I smirked. "Not bad." Ryan leaned back. "You seem lighter." I took a sip of my coffee, nodding. "I think I am." He studied me for a second before speaking. "I've been thinking about leaving Austin." I blinked, surprised. "What?" "There's a job opportunity. It's a big move, but I don't know. Maybe it's time for a fresh start." A fresh start. The words lingered. For so long, I thought I needed to win, to prove something, to beat Maddie. But maybe what I really needed was to let go. Ryan watched me, waiting. I swirled my coffee, smiling softly. "Maybe," I said, "for the first time in a long time, I don't feel stuck anymore." Life doesn't always hand you fairness. Sometimes you have to fight for it. I've learned that strength isn't about winning every battle. It's about standing tall, even when everything is trying to push you down. Letting go of the past doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing yourself over the weight of what's behind you. And in the end, that's where real freedom begins. If this message resonates with you, subscribe and join me on this journey of resilience, growth, and self-worth.